Hi, I'm Brooke from New York City. You're listening to Two Broads Talking Politics.
Are you listening?
Hi everyone, this is Kelly with Two Broads Talking Politics. I'm here in this segment with Kendra Horn, who is running for Congress in the Oklahoma 5th District. Hi, Kendra.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm really glad to be talking to you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. I'm going to start with our general first question, which is just tell me a little bit about your background and why you decided to run for Congress.
Yeah, I am a fifth-generation Oklahoman, fifth-generation 5th District. I was born and raised here. I am an attorney, but I've spent most of my career working in policy. I've done a lot of work with nonprofits, and immediately before I started running, I was leading two statewide nonprofits that focus on increasing the number of women running for and serving in elected office and getting women more civically engaged. So you could say that making a difference is something it's been a passion of mine for a long time, and that's what made me decide to run. I just knew that I had to take action to make a difference in my state because it was so critical. And that's the example that my parents and grandparents set is, if you see a problem, don't complain about it, get to work and fix it. And so now here I am.
Great. And can you tell us a little bit about the 5th District? Whereabouts in Oklahoma is this, and what kind of district is it?
Absolutely. It is right in the middle of the state. The Oklahoma City area is probably what's best known to many people. It's 3 counties, but the bulk of the people live here in Oklahoma County. So in the Oklahoma City area, it's a mainly urban and suburban district. We also have 2 more rural counties that are just to the south and east of Oklahoma County. And it's a great place to live. Oklahoma City and the metropolitan area has grown significantly over the past couple decades with investment in development and a lot of things in the city. And we've also seen a lot of growth in new sectors and more young people moving into this area. So it's a changing and really vibrant area of the state.
So I've been trying to sort of read the tea leaves or the numbers in this a little bit and try to understand kind of what's going on in this district. I think it's rated like an R+8 or 10 or something, but it looks like there were an awful lot of Democratic votes in the primary this year.
Yes, and that is the thing that I think makes this district really interesting. It has been trending much more Democratic over the last few cycles, but particularly this year. In the primary, we had more voters in the Democratic primary than the Republican primary, and that was with a very significant increase in voter turnout. We had almost a 300% increase in voter turnout in the 5th District, and I think there's a combination of reasons for that. We have had many issues with our education system. Sadly, the state legislature and the governor have overseen the largest cuts to our K-12 public education system in the country and had a big teacher walkout in the spring. We've also done things as a state, sadly, that like rejecting the Medicaid expansion dollars that have negatively impacted our overall health and well-being. But at the same time that this is happening, we've seen a real re-engagement and movement that's bringing this district much more purple. If you look at the breakdown, Republicans slightly outnumber Democrats, but if you take Democrats and independents, they outnumber the Republicans. So there's been this large growth in independents, and a lot of those are young professionals, I think, and that's been a part of the change that we've seen.
And so as you're going around and talking to people, and I'm sure you have a packed schedule like all candidates at this point in the campaign.
Yeah.
What sorts of things are people saying to you? Are those the issues that they're focusing on? Are they open to voting for a Democrat? Are they just looking for someone to solve problems?
Yeah, I think the biggest issues that we hear about over and over again on the doors, there are two that stick out above everything else, and then there are a few others, and that is healthcare and education. Because of the previous reasons, we have 25% of Oklahoma school districts are now at a 4-day school week because of the cuts to education, and people are concerned about that. And at a federal level, the cost of a higher education has grown so quickly that it is burdening young professionals that are coming out of a 4-year degree with just crushed under student loan debt and a number of other things like that. So people are concerned about preserving Medicare and Social Security, but they're also concerned that they're going to lose their health coverage because the Congress and Steve Russell, who I'm running against, have voted to remove those protections from pre-existing conditions and lifetime caps. Those are really core issues. And I will say that, there are other issues that are really related to that, because underneath the umbrella of health, mental health and substance abuse and criminal justice related issues, and something that I'm also passionate about, we incarcerate, sadly, more people than anyone else in the world per capita. That is both men and women. Those are the real issues. And to me, and I think to many people, those are not Democrat or Republican issues. They are issues that are a difference in somebody's ability to get a job, to be qualified for the workforce. And that's one of the reasons I decided to run. I believe that we need common sense solutions, and we have more in common than we don't, but we have been so distracted by all of the noise that we're not taking care of funding our core services.
I know you've been involved. You said you were working with some nonprofits on getting more women involved, and you've worked on some campaigns in the past. What are the sorts of things that you're finding? What were you really prepared for when you started actually running? What were the things that sort of surprised you a little bit, even thinking you knew what was going to happen in campaigning?
I love this question because even though I have worked on campaigns, I have gotten women ready to run, I can say truthfully that it doesn't matter how prepared you think you are. There are things that you can't know until you've experienced it. I used to tell women that were thinking about running that, that running for office is kind of everything just all balled into one. It's all of the things. It's highs, it's lows, it's exciting, it's frustrating. And I had no idea how right I was. I think that's it. I am constantly inspired by the support we have received, by the people who put their time and their money and their effort into this, and the stories that they share. And that keeps me really reinvigorated on a day-to-day basis, because it's long and it's hard and there's no way around that. But that gets back to my why. And if I ever get tired, which I do, and it is hard, that just reminds me of why we are all in this together.
So I think a lot of people sort of around the country tend to think of Oklahoma as just this really Republican red place. We spoke to some state legislature candidates a month or two ago who were teachers, who were really inspired by the teacher walkouts. But, I'm really interested too in how having a really strong gubernatorial candidate at the top of the ticket is gonna sort of trickle down. And I noticed that you were doing some, you've had some like door knocking and stuff that's talking about both you and the gubernatorial candidate. Wondered if you could talk a little bit about what sort of effect that might have.
Yeah, it goes in both ways. One of the reasons that things have begun to shift here in the 5th Congressional District is because we've had some really good, strong state legislative candidates. In this congressional district over the last 3 years, Democrats have picked up 4 state legislative seats in the House and in the Senate. And they did that not because they had all of the money or the resources in the world, but because they ran strong, smart campaigns and they worked really hard. And that has made a big difference and sort of laid the foundation. And the people, we've got some really great candidates that are running on the state legislative level in this district. So their hard work helps, but it also goes both ways. We have built a very strong campaign grassroots from the ground up, and that's including our support on doors and on the phones and money. All of those things really help to lay the foundation. And in fact, we've built a stronger campaign than any Democratic challenger in this congressional district in over 2 decades. But it also helps to have support from a statewide level, and we have that. And so it goes all of the different directions. And our ability to work with the governor's race and the ability is, we've got a state party coordinated campaign that's working also to help drive turnout. Because one of the things that is going to make a difference and is making a difference is turnout. Over the past few cycles, more than just a few cycles, what we've seen here and in many other places that people just kind of think of as red states is a drop in voter turnout, which means that people are not having their voices heard. And that goes back to feeling like your vote doesn't matter and your voice doesn't count. And to me, again, that's not really a partisan issue. It's more about making sure that all of our communities feel like they're important, and having that support going both ways, from a governor's race to this race to the state and local races. All of them are important, but having strong, well-prepared candidates who are raising enough money and talking to the voters about the issues that matter, not just as a partisan issue, but the issues that matter on a day-to-day basis, that is really what is making a difference.
And you've been able to raise quite a lot of money, and quite a lot of it from in-state.
We have, and that is one of the things that I'm really honestly so humbled by is, first of all, it takes a whole lot of work to do it because, we have to talk to a lot of people to make that happen. But consistently over the course of our campaign, we have kept pace with the incumbent. We outraised him in the very first quarter, and we believe that we've outraised him in this last third quarter. We'll know for sure very soon. More than 90% has been from Oklahomans. And that means a lot to me because what we've seen, not just here, but in other places, and my opponent is a great example of this. He has been primarily funded by corporate PACs and out-of-state donors, lobbyists, and things like that. In fact, in the fourth quarter of 2017, he only had 8 individual Oklahomans on his FEC report. The rest of it was PACs and lobbyists from other places. Whereas we have over 5,000 individual contributions. Still, most of the contributions that we have received have been from Oklahomans, and our most common contribution amount is still $25. And a lot of people are giving small dollar amounts over and over again. That difference really comes down to who I will be responsible for and responsive to. The role of a member of Congress is not to serve special interests. It is to serve their constituents and their communities. And that's why I'm running. And what that takes is an investment from the communities, which is what makes it so important that we've had the support from Oklahoma. It shows that they're ready for a different voice and common sense solutions, and people that are going to roll up their sleeves and tackle the real issues that we're facing.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure we talk about?
I would love to talk about the fact that I'm so inspired by so many of the amazing women that are running for office this year and why that's so important. When I mentioned the nonprofit work that I did, I led an organization called Sally's List, which is a statewide organization that recruits and trains women to run for office here in the state. And am so inspired by some of the women that we were able to recruit before I left and that are running for office, but also not just here, but throughout the country. Oklahoma is still 49th in the nation for women serving in elected office, and has only ever sent 2 women to U.S. Congress before. When I'm elected in November, I will be the 3rd woman to ever represent Oklahoma in Congress. And we also have in our state so many places where we need to make improvements, where women's voices are not being heard. We're highest in women's incarceration. We're amongst the highest states, sadly, in domestic violence and sexual assault and so many other issues that really have a negative impact on women, children, and families, not to mention, pay inequity and things like that. These are issues that are human issues, and they're also economic issues. And I've been asked, a number of times about how that plays into it. And I think that being a woman and the voice that I can bring to this and do bring to this is it's not that I am qualified because I am a woman, but that it is really critical that we have representation overall that looks more like our communities. And that includes gender, race, ethnicity, different socioeconomic backgrounds, because we have real issues that need to be tackled. And that's another thing that I do hear a lot from people that needs to be addressed. And I think it's so important.
If our listeners would like to help support your campaign, how can they do that?
They can do a few things. They can go to our website. It's KendraHorn.com, and that's KendraHorn.com. And they can check out more about any specific positions they have questions about. They can also, there's a great contribute link up at the top. We have been successful in our fundraising efforts, but we've got more to go to take on and tackle flipping the 5th congressional district. They can also reach out if they would like to make phone calls or spread the word. We are also on social media, on Facebook, Kendra Horn for Congress, Twitter @Horn for Congress, Facebook, Twitter, contributions of any amount, spreading the word with your friends and family. We have the ability to make phone calls and a number of other things. We'd be happy to get them involved.
Excellent. We'll put a link up on our website as well. So, Kendra, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I know you've got a busy schedule, and it's just really exciting to think about women being elected everywhere, but especially a Democratic woman in Oklahoma.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kelly. I sincerely appreciate your time and your interest. And thank you for spreading the word and doing the work to make sure people understand that all across our country in districts and places that it's so easy to see as beyond hope, that there are people fighting for solutions and for their communities. And thank you for spreading the word about that.
Always. I am on in this segment with Dr. Jennifer Zimmerman, who is running for Congress in the 1st District of Florida.
Hi, Kelly. Good afternoon.
Yeah, so as we're speaking, you are in the midst of preparations for a hurricane.
Yes, of course, just to make it a little bit more exciting, aside from still actively practicing in pediatrics and running a campaign in Florida District 1, now we have word that Hurricane Michael is barreling towards the Panhandle region. We just don't know exactly where the landfall is going to be, but it definitely will affect the district that I represent and the adjacent district. We just don't know exactly which one will bear the brunt of the hurricane, but we will be affected.
So I'm sure we'll want to come back to climate change and related things in a few minutes, but maybe you could give us a little bit of background on you and who you are and why you're running for Congress.
My name is Jennifer Zimmerman. My maiden name is Mijares, which basically tells you a little bit about myself. I am an immigrant. I was born and raised in the Philippines, And I came to America as an intern for Long Island Jewish Medical Center, which is for general pediatrics training in New York. Basically, I was born not with a silver spoon. My parents were not quite rich. I did grow up in a little bit of a hood. That's why I'm so big on education, Kelly, because we did rise up through education. All my siblings are college graduates, and we believe that is what afforded us an opportunity to have a better life. Now, why even America? My father was a World War II veteran and a prisoner of war and fought alongside American troops in the Pacific. And so America gave him a second chance in life. And growing up, we always thought America was the beacon of freedom, and where if people worked hard and played by the rules, that you could actually, rise up and have a better life, not only for yourself, but for your family and those around you. So I decided to take a chance, and I did come here in New York on $1 a day budget. As I said, we didn't have much, but the America that welcomed me 25 years ago is what I miss. The kindness and the trust between strangers and immigrants, and it didn't really matter what you looked like. What mattered was that you were striving to get a better life. And I think we've kind of lost that kind of feeling in America right now. I'm disturbed as a woman that we seem to be operating more on fear and hatred rather than a feeling of hope and maybe helping each other out to come out of the dark and maybe get a better life for everybody. That's essentially where I'm coming from. I believe I have a mission, being a pediatrician, that, as a pediatrician, you treat every child regardless of party affiliation or what they look like or who their parents are or, what they're dressed in. You're not concerned about the demographics or whether they're right or left or whatever it is. You don't box them up into categories. What you're concerned about is this child has an illness, and I want this child to get better. And I want to bring that feeling in our district and obviously in our country.
So this district has been fairly Republican for about the last 20 years, maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
It was Joe Scarborough's district for people who follow way back politics, and is currently Matt Gaetz, who's not very popular among Democrats. So
even with Republicans, it's not popular.
So what are you seeing in this district this year? What do you sort of see as your path to victory in a district that has been voting heavily Republican prior to this?
I think that the difference this time is that obviously what happened in the general elections in 2016 and the outcome has awakened a lot of Americans and women like me especially that just want to restore decency and common sense and maybe just a little bit more humanity. It was very uplifting to see millions of women all over the world, not just our country, actually march immediately the day after the present occupier of the White House was installed. And I would like to also go back to the day that I actually met our incumbent in one of his town halls. I've never attended a town hall before, and I've never even heard of a town hall in our district. I met him, just a few days after the inauguration, and he held the first town hall. And this was at the height of the movement for the repeal and replace project that they had for the Affordable Care Act. And I went there to basically beg for them to reconsider because it will affect not only my family who has pre-existing conditions, but a lot of our constituents and some of the parents of the children that I serve. And I received such an overwhelming response from that. I actually have a video on my Facebook page that shows just how much I tried to advocate for everyone. And I basically begged him to put country over party. And the response of the audience was just unbelievable. And everyone started to reach out to me. And I didn't, and a lot of them said that they were registered Republicans, and they were very, very concerned that the present administration and our incumbent just didn't care if they lost their insurance or not. And being a physician, I am a provider of healthcare. And not only that, I'm also a consumer of healthcare. And on the third level is I used to own a small business, which is, a mom and pop clinic. in the community that I have served for close to 2 decades. And it was going to affect all three of the levels of involvement I had with healthcare. And I decided just couldn't be quiet anymore. And because of the response I got from the community and the support, I believe that the time is right for a different voice. You see, for 25 years, the Democratic Party here has been sort of accustomed to just having the same ball game or game plan. It was the same mold. And it kind of like just really didn't have much difference with the Republican Party. It was the same good old boys club, the same mold. And I don't mean to be derogatory to any kind of group, but or to be judgmental. But it was basically the same kind of men were running against the Republicans. And for 25 years, we had lost. And they thought that the only way to beat the Republicans was to put in like ex-military old white men. And for 25 years, we've lost. And the ones who have occupied Congress have been men who did not serve. They're non-military, with no military background, and basically probably what you would call the good old boys club. So I'm completely different. I'm a different strategy. I'm a different, you can't cage me. You can't box me. I'm an immigrant. I'm a woman. I'm a physician. I'm a pediatrician. And so I'm a little surprising for this region. And maybe it's time to actually change. And I'm feeling support from all over. And I have a good feeling that maybe the work I've done in this community will be put forward and people will remember the trust they gave me all these years.
That's great. And you're a mom. We've been advocating for having more moms in Congress. I think that could solve a lot of our problems.
We can multitask and we don't take no for an answer.
Exactly.
We can clean laundry while looking good in heels.
So we had started talking about hurricane and environmental impacts, which I know are really important in Florida. And I noticed on your webpage where you're talking about issues, you talk about protecting the environment as a healthcare issue, that a lot of illnesses are actually caused by things like environmental pollutants. So I wondered if you could talk a little bit about the importance. There's just been this big report about how quickly we need to move on climate change if we're going to be able to, basically save ourselves from disaster. But if you could talk a little bit about the importance of protecting the environment, the importance for a place like Florida and the healthcare issues that come with that.
Well, Florida is basically a peninsula. I mean, if you look at the map of Florida, we are technically just surrounded by water. You got the Atlantic and then you got the Gulf of Mexico. And right now, Florida is sick between the red tide and the pollutants that are getting into our waterways. Actually, even before the hurricane started, we have already received reports that the red tide has reached the waters of the Gulf and actually has gone up to the Panhandle region. And the number one thing that we have been hearing, the number one symptom is respiratory illnesses. People are inhaling toxins from this red tide. And not only is it killing wildlife, it is choking the children and adults who are inhaling these substances. And so when I see an increase in asthma-related symptoms, wheezing, people having a hard time with breathing, watery eyes, these are all manifestations of your body getting aggravated with these pollutants. If we cannot, this is the most, to me, nonpartisan, life-threatening issue. Pollutants and allergens and disease do not look at your party affiliation. You will get sick regardless of who you voted for. And I don't understand why we can't agree on the one thing that will either give us a better life or will kill us as a society and the planet Earth. If we don't take care of the one living space that we all live on and the same air that we should all breathe, if we don't take care of that, what else do we have? It boggles my mind why we are all fighting. Why we are all fighting when we all need clean air. We need clean water. Without those two, we will not survive as a species. And look, we're about to have a hurricane. What is the one thing they always talk about? Storm surge. Storm surge. Now they're not talking about 2 feet, 10 feet. If you're already in a low-lying area and the water levels have already risen over the past few years, a 10-foot storm surge is literally like a 20-foot storm surge to these low-lying areas. We have a lot of coastal communities. They're evacuating. The highways are now plugged. There's no more gas anywhere. There's no water. You see, people panic. When it affects you, now you're thinking, wow, I need to do something. But unless it affects you personally, most people don't care. But if you look at the whole picture, this hurricane is reminding us that we're all in this together. And if we don't find a solution together, we will all perish at the same time. And I just don't understand why we don't want to take care of issues that affect all of us now while we can. When not everything, we don't have to do major things. We just need to acknowledge the fact that climate change is real and there are things we can do now before we all get inundated by the rising, levels of the sea and by the pollutants that we will all inhale, because we will not survive in the next generation. I don't know if they're going to have a planet Earth to inherit.
Are there other things that you would like to make sure that we talk about?
Well, I know I talk a lot, Kelly, but I'm so passionate about just, common sense things. So obviously my passion is healthcare. I've taken care of children and families for the last 2 decades in the same district. I haven't left. So they've been coming up to me, telling me about their fears and their hopes. And really, there's also no division, whether right or left, on those things. So what I see is that people just don't understand how healthcare works. They all have preconceived ideas. And in fact, over the next few weeks after the hurricane is over, or whatever the storm will bring us, I intend to do little educational videos because people don't even know the difference between Medicaid, Medicare. They think Obamacare and Affordable Care Act are 2 separate entities. And it's just, a lot of our problems, I think, is really stemming from the fact that it's just ignorance or lack of knowledge. And once we know what's out there, people would be a little bit more aware that we all worry about the same things. Like, for example, Social Security and Medicare. Who wants to decimate those 2 programs? But they don't understand that the thing that is called a tax cut for the rich contributes more to the debt of our country, and therefore the budget will not be balanced. And where are they going to cut resources? Not on the 1%. They're going to have to start to cut on the other programs, and they call them the entitlement programs. That would be your Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security. You are going to make the least of us carry the burden of making the rich have a better life. I'm not anti-rich. I just want to make sure everything is fair, because I see these patients every day, and they struggle. Now, is there abuse in any of these programs? Come on, Kelly. There's abuse everywhere. We cannot help that. But why do we penalize the majority who actually are just law-abiding citizens and just want to do the right thing and just want to survive? And I hope that the message I bring out there is that there are a lot of us decent men and women, and most especially women, who are running to make sure that this message goes across the aisle, and that we can hopefully work together again, because we want to just have decency and common sense and humanity back into our society. And right now we don't have that. Right now it's all the decisions are based on who lobbied the most and who received the most donor money. And that's just sickening. When greed is put in, when greed controls our thinking, we're not going to make the right decisions for everybody.
If our listeners would like to help out your campaign in this final month, not quite a month, how can they do that?
Mm-hmm. Oh, please, yes. As much as I don't want dark money, and I really don't want money to control, I don't think any decent candidate wants money to control the way we think and the way we act. Unfortunately, money is needed to purchase yard signs and educational materials and T-shirts and promotional stuff. So please, if you want decency back and humanity back in District 1, I implore that you actually go to our website, which is www.jenniferzimmermanmd.com. And in it, you will learn more about what I stand for, my life story, and an Act Blue button where you can donate so that we can stop this craziness that's going on in Washington, D.C. So once again, it's www.jenniferzimmermanmd.com. Any donation would be appreciated. In fact, Kelly, I can proudly say I've received donations as little as $1 to $3 to $5 all over the nation. And it really is the one, it fuels my energy. It makes me so honored and proud to represent people who believe in the mission, who believe in the message that we put forth. We also have a Facebook page if people want to see what we're doing, because we're putting it all out there a couple of times a day. We're very busy in the district. And that one would be Jennifer Zimmerman for Congress. If they like our Facebook page, they could also see, there's also an attachment there or a link for a donate button. And I would really appreciate it. Everyone would like to visit our page and contribute. It would be much appreciated.
All right, excellent. We'll put a link up for that on our website as well. I know we have at least a couple listeners in your district, so hopefully they will also get their yard signs out and go knock some doors. So thank you so much for speaking with me today. I'm so thrilled that there is someone who's not part of the Old Boys Club who's running in the Florida First. So,
well, we do our initial hashtag because I was invited to the Women's March. I spoke about all the issues that affect us, and so I challenged everyone because it was the Women's March. I said, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and see what kind of voice you want to represent. You're going to have to tell yourself that this woman can, to empower yourself and other women. So that was our initial hashtag, was this woman can. And then I said, and you got to keep calm because Dr. Z will be in the house. And now the hashtag that's really trending for us is send a good doctor to the house.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we'll be watching your race for these final few weeks. And I hope the effects of the hurricane aren't too terrible and that you guys are all able to stay safe.
Well, as I said, this is a strong woman, and I intend to, hopefully things will be fine. But after it is safe to go out, I've already spoken with other candidates, and we're going to do a tour and make sure that the district is okay. And we're going to try our very best to help out.
I am here in this segment with Jennie Lou Leeder, who is running for Congress in the 11th District of Texas. Hi, Jennie Lou.
Hello, how are you today?
I am great. How are you?
Doing well, enjoying the rain.
So could we start with just a little bit of background?
Sure. I am a seventh-generation Texan, raised in Llano, Texas. I graduated from Llano High School. I have an agriculture education degree and a minor in kinesiology from Southwest Texas in San Marcos, and a master's from Ohio University, the College of Business, in athletic administration. I was a teacher and a coach for 11 years, and now I am a USA Club head swim coach.
And what sort of inspired you to run this year?
Well, Kelly, I was county chair for Llano County Democrats for 10 years. And I was the Senate District Executive Committee woman for Senate District 24. And during that time, I really started paying attention to how our representatives and our senators on the state level, and then again on the federal level, were voting, and how those votes were affecting our people negatively and positively in my hometown and in the cities where my friends lived. And what I noticed was that their votes that they were casting were hurting the middle class. and they were hurting our working poor, our community people that work 40 plus hours a week for minimum wage. So that's what made me decide to get in, to put my name in the hat and run against Mike Conaway for Texas 11.
So can you tell us a little bit about the 11th district? Where exactly in Texas is this? Texas has an enormous number of districts. And what's kind of the general sense of the district?
This is one of the larger districts, Kelly. It's 29 counties. Llano County is the most southeast corner, and then it goes up to San Saba, Brady, Stephenville, all the way up to Palo Pinto County, which borders Tarrant County, which is Fort Worth. Then it takes a hard, sharp left all the way over to the Texas-New Mexico border to Andrews County. And then the west side, it comes down Odessa, Midland, San Angelo, Menard, Mason, down to Junction. So it's over 27,000 square miles. And we have visited every county and have been working in every one of the 29 counties. That's enormous. It is. It is, and it's a very diverse culture. So we have urban, we have, Midland has over 111,000 people in it, and Odessa's large, San Angelo's large, Stephenville, Brownwood, Granbury, those are large communities. And then we have the little communities that have 200 or 300 in them. So we go from an urban center to a very rural center. But what I've noticed when I've gone through all the communities and I visited with our voters is everybody has the same 3 kitchen table items that they're talking about. The biggest one is healthcare. They are very concerned about healthcare. They're very concerned about having coverage for existing conditions and pre-existing conditions. They're concerned about the cost of education. They're concerned about the type of education their children are receiving. And then they're concerned about the infrastructure. And we're not talking roads and bridges. We're talking, roads and bridges, water, air, electric, and high-speed broadband internet access. 39% of America, which is over 23 million people, do not have access to broadband internet. And what that means is that in the rural communities, the smaller communities, their kids are not able to take the college classes to where they could go in already with 6, 8, 10 credit hours, or the AP classes. Their doctors aren't able to download the continuing ed hours and stay on the cutting edge. There's some communities that don't even have a doctor in them or an emergency room, so they can't access telemedicine. But the big thing is that rural Texas needs jobs, and there's not jobs available to expand. Where if we had high-speed broadband internet, they could teleport their jobs. They could telecommute, and then they could live in rural Texas or live in other rural communities. And that would bring dollars into the community, into the businesses, which would grow the businesses, which would bring more businesses. So it's just all of those are the issues that everybody is talking about, no matter where they live in Texas. One of the things that we've heard as we've spoken to people in Texas this year is this common refrain that Texas isn't a red state, it's a non-voting state. Mm-hmm. And so I certainly see that in looking at voting numbers from this district, especially in midterm years. It looks like midterm years gets, maybe half the turnout that a presidential year gets. And it also looks like not just people aren't voting in this district, but they're not running in this district. The past 2 cycles, there hasn't even been a Democrat on the ballot for Congress. What you're saying is right. Everyone says Texas is this red state and it's super red. It's not. Texas has the worst voting record in all of the United States. This district is considered the reddest House district. But if you look at the numbers, it's the worst voting district. It's not red. It's just the red gets out the vote and the blue stays home. I mean, we have over 750,000 people in this district, and we average between 100 and 150,000 in a midterm, depending on what year it is. Is there 2 candidates or is there 3 candidates? And that's not acceptable. So what we've been working on is knocking on doors, making phone calls, sending out postcards, sending out letters, just trying to touch every voter and let them know they have a choice this year. And if they want to see a change, they have to use their voice, they have to be loud, and they have to let it be heard at the ballot box. And do you think that people are responding to that? Are you seeing increased interest in voting? Yes, Yes, I have been. And I have to say that they're watching what's going on in Washington very closely. A lot of the Republicans in my area are like, oh, that's in Washington. It's not going to have an effect on us. And a lot of my Democratic friends are like, they're watching everything that's going on. They watched while everybody was watching Kavanaugh, the House quietly passed Tax Cut 2.0, which wasn't covered hardly at all in the news. So they're watching this quietly, and they're going to the ballot box. The people that I've spoken to that got their ballot by mail, it's already been returned. They're not holding on to them to take them and exchange them so they can vote in person. They voted, and they've put them in the mail.
One of the big stories this year, of course, in Texas is Beto O'Rourke. And I'm wondering if you think that having Beto at the top of the ticket is going to also increase enthusiasm. We see these pictures and videos of the town halls and things he's doing that with just enormous numbers of people showing up. So I wonder if you're seeing that effect as well.
Yes, Beto's invited me. I've spoken before him at 10 of his town halls, and we have a couple more planned. So, yes, I've watched from the beginning where there was 75 to 100 to the last one that we did together in Midland. There was over 500 people there. So I think the enthusiasm, he is able to touch people and get them to come out. And it's not just Democrats, it's independents, it's Republicans, it's people who haven't voted in 20 years. And he's able to broach that bridge, and they're willing to listen and come out. And I think that he will be a benefit for everybody down the ticket also.
That's great. And I think that's so exciting. And it's so exciting that, that people like him are going everywhere in Texas and that you are making such an effort to get to everywhere in your district. I think that that's something that has been missing from elections for a while now.
Mm-hmm. Well, my thoughts were this. If I'm going to represent Texas 11, all 29 counties, be elected, I will represent everybody, the Democrats, the Republicans, the independents, the working poor, the one percenters, the wealthy, the special interests. I will be their elected official. So I need to know what they're concerned about, which means you have to get out there and you've got to travel through all 29 counties multiple times. And, that's what I've been doing. That's what Beto's been doing. That's what Kim Olson has been doing. All of our statewide candidates have really worked hard to get through all of the counties. And they have a lot more than I have. They have 254. I just have 29. That I still work a full-time job, Kelly. I'm I think there's only 3 of us that are working full-time that are running. So I'm definitely just a middle-class girl trying to make a difference that has a little bit of political background.
What do you think your coaching background, your education background sort of brings in both in sort of your style of campaigning, but also sort of how you think about issues and how you think about working together in Congress?
I think it brings leadership, and not only leadership, but the ability to sit and listen and compartmentalize what's the most important part of the issue, what's the secondary part, what needs to be focused on now, what can be put to the side to be focused on later. And I also think that what it brings to the table is just to be organized, to know how to get things done, how to work with other people. But I also think that I grew up in a small community and helped my dad and my uncle with our family farm that's been in the family since the 1800s. And I think that along with my coaching and teaching background, it's taught me how to work with other people and find equitable solutions that benefit both of us. It may not be exactly what either group wants, but it's a solution that we can all agree upon. I think that's what's missing right now in Congress. I think it's so polarized that there's no willingness to work together anymore, to find that joint solution, which is something that our country has to have. We have to have a government that works together for the people, not for a party.
Are there other things that you would like to make sure that we talk about?
Well, I just want everybody to know that I'm running because I want to be the voice for Texas 11. I think there's been too long that our voice has not been heard at the table. And I'm not talking about being the chairman of committees. I'm talking about the voice that actually represents the district. Our average salary, depending on where you look, is from $42,000 to $50,000. So passing a capital gains tax is not going to affect us. That's going to affect the top 1%. So we need a voice that's going to be representative of our people, of our citizens in Texas 11. And that's what I'm offering to them. If they will give me a chance, that I want to represent them, not only for SNAP benefits and for farming benefits, but for education and for infrastructure and for healthcare. I want us to be a healthy nation. And if you have your health, then you can go to school and you can learn, or you can go to your job and you can work. But without our health, we don't have anything. So if I was elected, that would be the first thing that I would be tackling, would be healthcare.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and it's what we're hearing all over the country, and I'm very confident that when all these wonderful Democratic candidates all over the country win, that this is something that is sort of the first priority to work on. I think it's easy for people to get on, Twitter and Facebook to get sort of all obsessed with Russia and things like that, and that's important, but healthcare is clearly the thing that affects people every day.
Yes, and you're right. The Russia issue is very important. That right now we have a Congress that's passed 2 tax cuts that's going to directly impact Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The first tax cut, and now they've passed the second one, and it's going to take it even more to the bone. And our nation can't afford that. We have people, Kelly, in our district that work 40 hours plus a week, and they're still on SNAP because their pay is so little. They're working, and they're trying to get out of the situations they're in. But without affordable education, they won't be able to. Without a living wage, they won't be able to. So, I mean, there's lots of things on the global stage that are very important. But right now, we need to focus on our citizens at home and making sure they have what they need, at the same time focusing on the global issues. And that references back to the question you asked a while ago. What did I think that my school, being a teacher and a coach, brings to it? And I think it's that ability to multitask. You identify what the issues are, you put them in priority, and then you're able to work on multiple issues at the same time.
If our listeners would like to help out your campaign, how can they do that?
I would love for them to help out my campaign. They can go to our website. It's my name, JennieLouLeeder.com. JennieLouLeeder.com. We also have a Facebook and a Twitter account. They can sign up to knock on doors or make phone calls or write postcards or donate. Or block walk. I have a great field director whose information is on the site, and all they have to do is go click what they'd like to do, and she can cut them a list in their own community for any of the above, or if they'd like to block walk or make phone calls or send postcards in another community, she can cut them a list for that also.
Excellent. We'll put a link for your website up on our website as well. And I noticed on your website, on your store, that one of the items that you can get with your name is a foam beer can cooler. So
Yeah.
Seems appropriate for Texas.
My dad is giving me grief about that, Kelly. And I was just like, but Dad, it's for German soda water, which is what we call beer because my dad's family's from Germany. And he just chuckled at that. But, it's very appropriate. We are in Texas, and, we drink all sorts of drinks here, and we like to have them cold. I just thought it was very appropriate. And also when I announced my run, it was the 27th of July, and it was over 100 degrees that day, and we were setting up the store, and I was like, we need a koozie. It's really warm. We need a koozie. So, Kelly, we've had a wonderful time. I have a great group of volunteers, and just a couple on staff, and everyone else was volunteers. And they're fantastic. We have really worked hard to get out the word and touch everybody in the district that we can reach out to. This election is so vitally important. The direction of our healthcare, of our schools, of our infrastructure. It's all on the line at this election. And I just hope that people understand that and they take the time on October 22nd to go vote, that they vote in early voting, that they don't wait until Election Day. It is so important. You never know with how our weather is going, what's going to happen on Election Day. We could have a flood or a tsunami or, you're clueless. So go vote. Pick a sunny day that's during early voting and go vote.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jennie Lou, for speaking with me and for running. And we'll be watching your race. Hopefully some of our listeners will head out to your enormous district in Texas and help volunteer.
Well, we would sure welcome it and appreciate their help.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And let's turn Texas blue. This is our favorite phrase in our office. Let's put a leader in the House and all the Republicans away.
Thanks for listening to Two Broads Talking Politics. Our theme song is called Are You Listening? Off of the album Elephant Shaped Trees by the band Immunuri, and we're using it with permission of the band. Our logo and other original artwork is by Matthew Weflin and was created for use by this podcast.